Hi friends, you're back out at my garden with me. You're at that 1870s Homestead and my name's Rachel. And long story short, which I'll link to here, we're not gardening this year. We're taking the year off to let our land rest and rebuild itself, renourish itself, and give our bodies a break too. But I'm not ignoring my garden at the same time. I'm not going to let the weeds get out of control. I'm seeing lots of weeds, and I need to do some bed management. So I got a bunch of supplies behind me. I've got 2 in-ground beds specifically that I need to work today. And by work, I mean not force it to grow anything, take care of it, amend it, and get it secured so the weeds don't get taken over. So I don't know how much I'm going to get done today. The sun is bright. The wind is blasting through these Michigan prairies. It kind of always feels where we live is kind of open farm country around here, that this must be what it's like to live on the great open plains someday, because the winds just come blowing across. So the beds behind you are what we're going to be working on today. So let me show you those. And not too bad, but we got some work to do. So all I'm going to do is be broad forking these lightly, not heavily, because as you can see, my soil, I don't know if you guys can see that. Let me put you down here. My soil is quite nice. It's nice and light, so I'm not doing a heavy lift. But I did walk on this bed a bit last year, especially down that center aisle between where I was growing my tomatoes. So I want to make sure it's not too compacted before I let it rest. So one thing if you do a no dig or no till anyway, gardening method, is you really don't want to work, see like that. I don't want to do that. I don't want to turn my garden upside down, and I don't want to walk on it too much. You want all that life and all the worms and bugs and microorganisms to do the work for you. And as things are naturally decomposing. See, I thought I waited long enough. I've learned my lesson over the years not to do this when the soil's really wet. Okay, I'm going to try to put my face in the shade. So I've got this whole bed broad forked. It really wasn't bad, especially the front half and the back half behind the trellis where the produce was growing last year was excellent. I really just didn't even need to broad fork it. Down the center pathway where I did walk, it definitely benefited it. It wasn't overly compacted though, but I wanted to take a break and tell you, especially if you're new here and this is your first garden season with me, or I didn't really speak to it much last year. This whole space here was just grass. We didn't till this land at all. I started all of my beds just by mowing down the grass as short as I could go on the lawnmower deck, and then laying down cardboard, wetting that, and putting like raised bed garden soil mix on top. And anytime I do a raised bed garden soil mix, to start out with, it's always 1 part peat moss, 1 part compost, and 1 part vermiculite or perlite. So equal parts of those. And then I mix in some bone meal, blood meal, azomite, rock phosphate, just for some general nutrients. And that's how all my beds have been started. So I grew on this lot of land for 7 years. It's being rested 6 years. It's being rested now at 7th year. And all I'm going to be doing now, and I should say, over those years, all I've done is basically mulch and compost. Mulch and compost, mulch and compost. And compost in varying varieties, whether it was sifted compost out of my chicken coop or barn clean out of, the goats' shelter every year. So kind of different, just using and working with what I have very affordably and as low effort as I can. All right, so out on my garden cart, I brought a big what do you call them? Garbage cans. A big garbage can that's about half full of alfalfa pellets from when we were raising our goats. And I have no use for the alfalfa pellets other than it's a great nitrogen source for my garden. So I'm going to go through and sprinkle alfalfa pellets as far as they'll go. And I'll show you like how much I'm putting on when it gets to that point. I have a big, probably 5-gallon bucket of biochar and wood ash that we'll be spreading on. I have rock phosphate, some dolomite, and I had a little bit of Epsom salts, which I normally don't use, but since I have them and it's just resting this year, I'm gonna just sprinkle a little bit of that on. And I'm kind of willy-nilly like that, and that's probably why, I don't know, I don't research too much into it. I just use what I have. So let's go in first with the alfalfa pellets. Oh, and there's beet pellets in there too. I don't know what beets will get. Probably some good boron. So I've got just a scoop of both beet and alfalfa. And I'll bring you guys down here and show you how thick I spread it on. So hopefully this is showing up. Like these are the alfalfa pellets right here. Hopefully that's showing up. I'm not in this shade too much. Like it was like really random beet pellets in there. But these expand when they get wet. So you don't have to go on like super crazy heavy because they'll, you know, fluff up. And I'm going on top of this, not today, but on top of everything I put down today, probably tomorrow, is the chicken coop clean out. So and that's not really broken down yet. So it's a lot of carbon, not as much nitrogen. So that with this nitrogen source will help balance everything out. All right, well, I had enough alfalfa beet pellet mix to do all the in-ground beds that wrap around the garden and 2 of my raised beds. So now I'm going in with the wood ash and biochar, and I'm just sprinkling it on. And I'm just gonna do the one bed because it's dinner time and Todd's making us some chili dogs. So I'm gonna go in and have dinner with him, but I wanna show you guys, when I did my pH soil test, I realized my soil was a bit too acidic. So I'm going on a little heavier than I normally do with my wood ash. And so a good scoopful for about a 6 to 10 inch space, and a little windy. But I made sure to grab a bunch of the wood char out of there. So actual chunks of like the wood charcoal bits, which bring in a lot of minerals and hold on to things a lot longer. And then with the dolomite, that goes on pretty light and it's hard to spread in the wind because it is like powder. And then the rock phosphate, similarly, sprinkle that on at the same rate that I do my dolomite. And this is just putting good minerals back in the soil from all the years of growing and harvesting and reaping out of this. So that's what I'm going to be doing over probably the next couple days. Is just, I've got more of the dolomite and rock phosphate in the garden shed. I have a whole pile of wood ash. So I'm just going to be amending these beds the same way that I'm showing you. I only have one more bed to broad fork, The raised beds you can see behind me are loaded with leaves, so I'm just going to be sprinkling on the amendments on top of that. We will then, in the next video, hopefully be showing you cleaning out the chicken coop, adding that to the garden beds that don't have any mulch on top of them, and I need to cardboard those first. And then we're gonna just continue to go throughout this season, me showing you guys how I'm managing a resting garden. So it'll be fun, I'm excited. So if you guys have any questions, leave them in the comments below. If you're just brand new to starting a garden, I'll do my best to get back with you and answer those questions, or maybe it'll be enough questions to prompt follow-up videos. And you guys keep me inspired, and we work off of each other. So I'll see you guys next video out in your garden. Talk to you later. Big gust, sorry. I'll come back.